This skill is called impact strength. Impact strength or contact strength is an extremely important skill to have, especially if you're a beginner, because it'll help you avoid injury and also progress to the next steps of harder skills or competing in obstacle course races or doing like Ninja Warrior or rock climbing. It's a little windy out here, so I gotta put this thing on. All right, so I'm a little worried, but I'm gonna demonstrate what it looks like to not have impact strength and do the same movement I just did in the beginning. Okay, that was a pretty bad demonstration. This is like a tiny little jump, so here we go. You see how violently my arms open up and like I can feel all of the stress radiate down to my fingertips? The reason that if you've ever jumped to a bar or performed an obstacle course race or something like that, it's the reason that you might be slipping off the bar. It's because you need impact strength to be able to absorb all of that shock. It's the same principle as to why rock climbers use a dynamic rope instead of a static rope. Because if we took a giant whip, which is a huge fall in rock climbing, on a static rope, you would instantly shock load that and it would not feel very good. But on a dynamic rope, it absorbs just a little bit of that fall so it doesn't jolt and impact you as you take the fall. So the same principle is applied to when we're doing this on the bar, when we're jumping into the bar, we're trying to absorb. So the idea is to place your hands on the bar and use your muscles, but not flex everything at one time and not let everything come undone. It's finding the balance. And sometimes it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get it down, it's an amazing skill that can lead to other more advanced stuff. The first way I suggest you practice this is by jumping up to the bar and trying to catch yourself at 90 degrees. So I'm gonna jump up and catch myself at 90 degrees. Now that's gonna feel a little different than jumping further away, but we'll get into that as we progress. So once you get comfortable jumping and catching at 90 degrees, let's take a step back. So we're gonna take one tiny little step back and we're gonna jump into the bar. See how I generate a little bit of swing? Now this is where the core engagement comes in, because you saw as I jumped off the box before, my feet came up and I absorbed that shock wave. It's a wave of power that you're trying to absorb and rest into your body. So we take a step back. We're here, we're getting it down. I can feel my core start to activate and go through that little wave motion. And then as we get a little better, as I jump into the bar, my feet come up and I stop the swing. So we keep practicing that. This is also a great workout if you just keep doing this. We're here, up, absorb. And then as we get more advanced, we step up onto a platform or really far back and we jump harder and more violently because we're in training. We're not like performing the movement, we're not in the activity, because during the activity, you want to be as efficient and fluid as possible, but in training, you want to overproduce the movement and overpower the movement. That way, when you do it like in your sport, or if you do it, somewhere else, where we've overtrained to the point where it makes the actual activity a lot easier. So from here, I'm gonna power. I'm gonna really try to power into this one here. So jump, pull, see how high my legs come up, and then we absorb. So the idea is to jump, place my hands, because my hands aren't on the bar and they're not properly set, then everything else is not gonna work. Where I'm staring right now is kind of the middle of the bar, and I'm using my peripherals, the sides of my eyes, to use as like a reactionary proprioception. So as I'm jumping to the bar, I'm gauging the distance and I'm trying to land in the most comfortable possible position. And usually when we grab onto the bar with a full hand and we grab onto it like this and rotate it back, it pinches the skin underneath our hands, which can cause rips and tears and discomfort. So what I'm trying to do is place my hands directly on the top, and that's definitely gonna take a lot of practice. So I'm here, I'm jumping and just absorbing that impact. And so again, it's gonna take a little bit of practice. Like even on that one, I rotated my hands and I pinched my skin underneath. It's never gonna be perfect, but it's something you wanna continually try to do over and over. And again, that's where practice comes in. We practice to play our sport. And if OCR, rock climbing, whatever the case is your sport, that's what we wanna get good at. So one more time, really powerful. I'm gonna throw myself into this. And again, everything in my body is a shock absorber, except really my hands. My hands are kind of a shock absorber. It's more down in my forearms and this connection here. I actually heard a really good analogy, or I think that's the word for it, when you, for contact strength, are using this connection to here. And somebody said this is like a mouth and you're trying to close the mouth. And I thought that was a pretty good analogy to conceptualize the closing of your arms and keeping this contact strength here. But this is gonna take a lot of practice. It's gonna take some time to learn, but you know, start with the beginning, which is just jumping up and catching in a very comfortable position, taking that step back, rinsing and repeating. And you'll save a lot of time off training because of injury, tendon inflammation, because we're trying not to stress our tendons too much. Our tendons are what attach the bones, and our muscles are attaching to the tendons. And so we're using the muscles as our shock absorbers into the tension, or into the tendons. And so it's not putting so much stress on our arms, and you know, we're just trying to make everything as comfortable as possible. And as you get more natural with it, it'll become more fluid, more athletic, and you'll really be able to progress into more advanced stuff. Like I could go from this bar, if we're doing like an obstacle course, and then I can just, you know, climb around, whatever the case is. I'm over concrete right now, so I don't want to go too recklessly, but you get the point. It's just about training your body to absorb the impact, and we're focusing on our hands, and hopefully this helps you excel in whatever sport you do. I think this can apply to pretty much any sport that involves your grip strength in your hands and any sort of athleticism. Hopefully this helps.